Florida just passed a law that child molesters could be sentenced to death. Do you agree or disagree, and why? I'm going to say the unpopular and unpleasant reality. Sentencing child molesters to death will result in less people coming forward. It's bad enough when the abuser tells you if you tell anyone daddy will get in trouble. Now try if you tell anyone, they will kill daddy. Disagree. If you make the punishment for molestation the same as for murder, then the perp is more likely to murder the child after the act, and not leave a witness. I will have to see the language of the bill to come to a conclusion on this. The term child molester makes you think grown adult perving on a grade school-aged child. Unfortunately, the law isn't so black and white. How many teenage couples are 2 years apart and a year away from being executed by the state? Language is everything. Do I think a child molester deserves to die? Yes. Do I think there is a court or legal system on this planet even remotely qualified to pass that judgment? No. Some crimes definitely warrant death. There isn't a single person or system in existence qualified to make the call of which cases warrant it. When a law is passed that puts child molesters to death the same time that claims of grooming and child abuse towards the entire LGBTQ community are hitting their peak. It's not child molesters they're trying to kill here. From a pragmatic, immediate standpoint, it would result in a lot more homicides. A dead victim can't talk. From the second, Florida's quite close to passing laws that would simply make existing publicly as a queer person fall under that sentence. It could easily open the way for genocide. I don't believe in the death penalty because our system gets it wrong far too much and innocent people are put to death. I also don't approve of this law because Florida has made trans care impossible, and classify it as sexual abuse of a child. So you could put a parent to death as a child sexual predator for getting their child health care that the state doesn't agree with. It's disgusting. I don't trust anything coming out of Florida. They use the terms groomer and pedophile way too loosely to be able to accurately judge whether someone is a child molester. I disagree, because Florida's idea of a child molester is a drag queen, and not the people actually fucking children. Without seeing the actual language, my gut is that in FL the intent is less to protect children and more to witch hunt whoever they deem pervy. Drag queens, trans people, etc. We all know that it goes far beyond actual CMs. They really mean drag queens and trans people who of course aren't the so-called monsters these morons think they are. I agree a child molester deserves to die, but I'm against the death penalty because the system isn't good enough to not kill innocent people. Look up the Innocence Project to see many instances of people being freed from death row by DNA evidence. It all seems so noble. Until they start classifying existing as an LGBTQ person in front of a minor as child molestation, or parents being supportive of their child's transition. Actual child molesters, convicted in a court of law, do with what you will. But I don't trust DeSantis, and I've got a bad feeling about this. Seeing as this is the same state that is trying to classify drag queens as pedophiles and child molesters, I have a sneaking suspicion there's a little bit more to this than just protecting the children. A trans woman standing next to a minor would be sentenced to death while a priest who used his position to rape a young boy would not. Let's be real here. Why they made this law? Does anyone trust any branch of government in Florida to even correctly identify a child molester, or would this really just be a roster of drag queens they want to execute? As someone who was sexually abused as a child, I strongly believe there need to be far more severe punishments for those who do it. That being said, I disagree with the death penalty as a whole, and as someone else mentioned, it needs to be worded carefully so teenage couples a year or two apart do not fall victim to huge miscarriages of justice. Knowing Florida, they're going to try and use this on innocent queer people while actual predators, including multiple of their own politicians, are completely ignored. The problem is they are passing other laws to try and declare that wearing clothes not conforming to your birth sex in front of children counts as child molestation, which it definitely doesn't. I disagree. Why? Because currently the Republican Party in Florida is painting everyone they don't like as groomers and pedophiles. Drag performers, teachers teaching things they don't like, whatever. And now they're looking for permission to kill them. So no, I'm not for this. Disagree, because they're trying to say LGBTQ people are groomers. Maybe in another few months when they label having a kid at Drag Story Hour or doing gender affirming care as child abuse, well, now they can sentence people to death for that. You seriously think they passed this law with the intention of only punishing child molesters? This is a state that also decided drag queens reading to children is a form of grooming. It's also going to be open season on the LGBTQIA community. At least in the Salem witch trials, confessing to the accusation could save your life. If I may slippery slope for a moment, how close is FLGOP to declaring that exposing kids to drag shows is a form of molestation? Their penalty should be for those who are too dangerous to be kept alive even in prison. Rotting in jail emo would be worse anyway. Plus, people could try using this to falsely imprison the LGBTQ, teenage couples, whatever they dislike, thanks to the bullshit accusations and misinformation being thrown around. Being in jail, they could ATLE slip for a retrial to prove otherwise. I disagree. I don't know, maybe the people who think teaching kids that evolution is true is abuse shouldn't be deciding who gets executed, or be in charge of anything involving children. Man shrugging. Less people are going to come forward. A lot of predators are family, or close to the victim. Also, doing this makes it more likely that the predator will just kill their victim so that they can't talk. I completely disagree with this. It's only going to cause more heartache, and less convictions. It's not going to encourage molesters to murder their victims, it's going to discourage victims from coming forward, and in the current political climate it was clearly written as a threat towards LGBTQ people. I do not think the death penalty is a deterrent for any crimes. However, I think that harming a child is worse than murder, as it leads to so much trauma for their entire lives. Which in itself is horrific. Children are innocent. They're doing it again and the mods are doing nothing about it again. There is no verbiage in the bill about molestation or rape. The bill says child abuse, and it follows a bill that defines transgenderism as child abuse. This is astroturfing for laws being passed in Florida to start a trans genocide. Jesus fuck. On the principle of executing pedophiles? Yes. On the doubt of courts making infallible sentencing? No. If they're gonna give someone the chair, they better have irrefutable proof beyond any shadow of a doubt. DNA, photographic evidence, admission of guilt, multiple witnesses? Sure. Hearsay? Not a chance. Given Florida's current path, hell no. They're likely to class all kinds of not objectionable stuff as child sex abuse.